are so many different elements that goes into making your footage look professional. Instead of overwhelming you with every little detail on how to do that, I'm gonna give you one simple trick that will instantly make your videos look better. The key to keeping viewers engaged? Motion. Now, I'm not talking about that hyperactive, fast cut, retention-based editing that you see everywhere nowadays. I'm talking about subtle and cinematic motion, the kind that adds depth, professionalism, and a polished feel to your shots. Next time you watch a movie, just pay attention to how often the camera is moving. Not talking specifically about action shots and other things, I'm talking about this subtle cinematic motion. Most likely, it's in every shot. Some kind of slow pan or zoom in and out kind of motion that just adds that dynamic feel. Now, big productions achieve this by actively moving the camera through time and space, typically how you'd get camera motion. And they do this with a handful of different things like sliders, dollies, camera rigs, all sorts of things. And these things cost thousands of dollars. But here's the good news, you don't need any of that. There is a simple trick that you can use in any editing software to recreate this without spending any extra money. That trick is keyframes. With keyframes, you can simulate smooth camera motion in post-production, instantly giving your shots that big budget feel without the expensive gear. And the best part, your camera never actually moves. Yes, this is just using static shots, adding that subtle motion, panning, zooming, or shifting over time to make it feel dynamic. Now, for the best results, obviously you'll want a 4K camera, because to do this, we're cropping in to move it around. So we need to give ourselves just a little bit of real estate to achieve that motion. So with a 4K camera, obviously you can crop in while maintaining high quality. But that's enough explaining and talking about it, guys. Let me show you how you can achieve this in your editing software. I'm gonna be using Premiere Pro, but like I said, this works on any editing software, and usually the workflow is pretty much the same. So even if you're not in Premiere Pro, you should be able to follow along and get the idea. So open up your editors, guys, and let me show you how to do this effect. All right, so here we are. We are in Premiere Pro or whatever editing software you've got open. This is gonna be a really simple and easy effect to do. So all you have to do is take your footage that you want to edit. Here is just a shot that I did real quick of my Benchmade knife. It's like, I want to say 4 years old now. The thing's been super tried and true. But anyways, let's get the spot that we want to add some motion to. So it's already kind of, I'm already kind of moving it, but we'll say this is kind of the clip that I want to add some motion to. So it looks like it's just over about 8 seconds or so. So if we want to make this shot a little bit more dynamic, I think what would work with this shot pretty well is a gradual zoom out. So what we're gonna do is we're going to select the clip. We're gonna come over here to the effect controls. Let me kind of move around my windows here, give myself some room. So what we're going to do is we're gonna come over here to where you see all these little stopwatches. This is where you're gonna control all your keyframes. So let's say, very simple, what we wanna do, what we wanna add to this clip is just a simple slow zoom out from the knife. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna come over here to scale. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to ever so slightly zoom in. So we're cropping in a little bit, as you can see, from 100 to, we'll say 115, right around there. We're gonna hit this stopwatch. I'm gonna go ahead and turn that on. That generates a keyframe. So this is where I want the video to start. So you can go all the way to the start of the video and then set your keyframe. What I like to do is I just like to set it in the middle. So I'm going to drag this keyframe that I just made, drag it all the way over here. And then we are going to, so we want it to zoom back out to where it was, or at least close to where it was, around 100. I don't know if I want to go all the way. It kind of depends on the length of your clip. So I don't really necessarily want it to zoom out super fast, because you want this to be, again, more subtle, more cinematic. So what we're going to do is we're going to have it zoom back out to about 108, right there. And we're going to start with that. So now I'm going to take this keyframe that I just made and drag it all the way to the end. And from there, if we go to the start of the clip and we hit play, as you can see, there is a slow zoom out effect that just adds some really nice, subtle, dynamic motion to your shot. And that's so much more interesting to look at or to just view than just a static shot of my knife. We could even, if we really wanted to, we could zoom this out a little bit farther, closer. That will end up speeding the rate that it zooms out up. So if you can see, we set it to, I think it was around 103, this keyframe. So yeah, we're zooming back out to 103, and then we go back and hit start. As you can see, it zooms out quicker, and I think that looks pretty good right there. I do like that. So you can see the more that you play with this, the more you kind of get a feel for what is going to work best, and how quick you want something, how slow you want something. So playing around with keyframes is huge. Get in there and just see what works best for you. Let's say that we wanted to do a slight pan from left to right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these keyframes and reset our scale back to 100. If I wanted to take our frame right here from left to right, what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to zoom in. So again, crop in, because if we don't zoom in, as you can see, this is the extent, the boundaries of our shot, if you will. So anything past 100, anything small, you're just framing it down, you're cropping it down. So we want to stay within that resolution, obviously. So what you're gonna do, if you were wanting to take your shot from left to right, well, if you do it at 100, it's not going to work because, there's nothing left of the frame there. So what you have to do is you have to zoom it in. So let's crop back into 115, because that's going to give us some space, as you can see, on the left and the right to move it a little bit. So let's go over here to the left. Let's take it all the way to the edge. And then we're going to go ahead and set our keyframe right there. And then let's say we want to take it all the way to the boundary of this side right here, which is right around there. So this is gonna be pretty quick. This is gonna, kind of pan across the screen a lot quicker than I wanted, but I just wanna kind of showcase what you can do here. So with those two keyframes there, let's hit play. And it actually doesn't look that bad. That's a pretty good pace, I think. It's still a little quicker than I'd like, I think. For a 7-second clip, I might slow it down just a bit, but it's actually not bad. But as you can see, you just make a nice pan shot without having any sort of machinery, dolly, sliders, whatever. It's just utilizing the static shot that you already have by cropping in and then keyframing it along the way. And like I said, guys, this is so useful for talking headshots like me. You'll be seeing me throughout this whole edit. I use it throughout my whole videos just to kind of keep those things a little bit more engaging and less repetitive. And then secondary shots as well, and then especially B-roll shots like this. Whenever you can actually move your camera to add motion, I highly suggest doing it. The hard thing there is keeping it stable, whether you have a gimbal or you just have multiple points of contact to keep it steady. You can do that, and then you can pair that with warp stabilizer, and that does a pretty good job in Premiere Pro at least. But sometimes there's just areas where it's like it would work better if you just got a static shot, or you just know that you're not going to be able to get as stable of a shot as you can get with whatever camera rig you have. So it's easier to just set it on a tripod. That way you have no shake. You know that it's going to be a completely stable shot, and then you can just add the motion in post. And you could go as crazy as you want. You can even add some scale to this. So let's say we don't want to go past this, but let's say we wanted to zoom in from even closer, or you can have it zooming out. So now, not only is it going from left to right, it's going to be going from left to right and zooming out as well. So you can just add and pair all kinds of keyframes and get whatever kind of different motion that you want by just kind of playing around with it and really unlocking a new level of the way that you display your media by not spending an extra dime. It's simply just utilizing your editing software and using those keyframes. So you smack your LUT on there, your finished look, and then voila, you go from a static, very boring plain shot to something that has a little bit of dynamic motion in there and is a lot more engaging for the audience to look at. Static shots have a time and place. In fact, I would like to say generally it's probably like a 65-70% of your stuff is going to be static or just kind of as shot. You really don't want to go crazy with the motion. I know that's kind of in right now, and that super busy retention-based editing is the style that a lot of YouTubers do now. But do yourself a favor. If you want to make more timeless things that are going to be, watchable down the road when this isn't the trend, when this whole hypersensitive, hyperactive editing style is gone, people are going to be able to actually watch your stuff 5 years down the road without getting annoyed because you're just doing too much with the motion. At least that's my take on it, and I think it's a lot easier to watch when you do this a little bit more subtly. But that is it, guys. That is the whole effect. Utilizing those keyframes, playing around with whatever motion that you want to add on to there. Again, you can zoom in, you can zoom out, left, right, left, up, down, whatever. Go crazy with it. Like I said, not too crazy, but use this tool in your editing software and you're going to unlock a level of quality that you see in much bigger productions. Remember, motion is key to creating engaging content. If you have the ability to capture real stable camera movement, always go for it. But for those static shots like talking heads or secondary angles, this trick is a game changer. It keeps your footage dynamic, helps break up those repetitive shots, and holds the engagement of your audience. Just don't overdo it. Subtly is what makes this technique cinematic and natural rather than distracting. Try it out in your next edit, see the difference for yourself. That is all I've got for you guys today, though. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like down below, as well as subscribe for future content like this. And of course, a huge thank you to those of you who are still watching, boosting my video retention all the way to the very end. Appreciate you guys. But as always, that is enough consuming content, guys. Go out there, make something yourself, use this technique, and make those videos. I will see you all in the next one.